Hi, my name is Graham Law, and I'm at Seawood Photo in San Rafael, California. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite cameras, the Graflex Super D. The Super D is a 4x5 SLR single lens reflex camera, and it's a very truly hand-holdable 4x5. It's very unusual in that it has a reflex mirror, so you're actually looking through the taking lens. You don't have to use a dark cloth or anything. You just basically pop the top, cock the shutter, and then go. It's very easy to use. So this one's a little bit unusual in that it's been de-skinned. They're usually covered with a Moroccan leather like this one here, which is very pretty, but somebody took the time to peel off all the leather covering and polish this thing. Still your basic RB Graflex. So what the RB stands for in RB Graflex is rotating back. With a camera like this, obviously it wouldn't make much sense to turn it on its side every time you wanted to do a horizontal shot. As you can see, the back actually rotates. You do have the option of looking on a ground glass like as on a standard 4x5. But for the most part, you're going to use the reflex hood up above the camera to look down into it. As you can see, this has quite a lot of bellows draw, so you can focus quite close with this. This camera has a focal plane shutter, just like your standard Nikon used to have. Has the advantage of doing rather high shutter speeds. As you can see, this will actually do 1/1000th of a second. This chart on the side is actually how you determine the actual exposure. The shutter itself has tensioners on it, so you can set different tension settings. So there's low tension, and the shutter curtain itself actually has apertures, not to be confused with an f-stop on a lens. Basically it's the size of the slit or the opening on the back of the shutter, so that translates into different shutter speeds. So you use the scale. So right now we're on B and we're on low, so you'd find B and low, so we're at a 1/25th of a second. If I wanted to do a 400th of a second, I would set it to high, and I'd turn this to C, and that would give me a much faster shutter speed. So another unusual feature about this camera that I think made it very much ahead of its time is this actually has an automatic diaphragm. You know, with most 4x5s, you stop the lens down, and once you've done that, you really can't see what you're doing if you're shooting at a small aperture. This is like a 35mm camera in that a spring actually holds the aperture open at the widest aperture setting until the second that you release the shutter. So that means that even if you're shooting at f32, you're going to get a very bright image through the viewfinder right up until you push the button. So notice as soon as I release the button, the lens actually stops down, and then the rear curtain in the camera opens up, making your exposure. So I'm going to stop the lens down to f22, and then I reset the aperture to the widest setting, and it holds it open so I can see a nice bright image. And when you fire the camera, it stops down to f22 and the shutter goes. So the mirror after every shot has to be reset, so because when you take the picture, the mirror flips up out of the way. So to bring it back into the viewing position, you push this lever straight back. When you fire it, which is on the opposite side, the mirror goes up and the shutter opens. So here the shutter's open. If I wanted to focus off of the ground glass on the rear of the camera, this is the setting I would be using. Now by winding the tension lever on here, you'll see there's these openings here that actually get smaller and smaller the further I turn it. So that, you know, the thinner apertures would obviously equate to a much faster shutter speed. Seawood Photo, we've got a large selection of large format cameras. We've got many lenses and cameras available. The inventory changes on a weekly basis, so check back often to see what we have. You can see it at www.seawood.shop.